All right, let's keep things rolling along on the Elias Makos Show. An impending strike by WestJet pilots has travelers scrambling. SpaghettiOs, by the way, as we head into the flying season. The union representing the airline's pilots says its members will stop flying early Friday if a new contract can't be agreed upon. John Gradek is with us in studio. He's a lecturer at McGill University. He focuses on the aviation industry. John, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure to be here.
So I said, SpaghettiOs. Is this an SpaghettiOs? If you're traveling on WestJet, if you're a Canadian flyer, is this a big deal?
It's a big deal. You're looking at people that are got tickets booked on WestJet over the next 3 or 4 days that have a very high anxiety level and their blood pressure is up and the pulse rate is there. So you're all sitting back waiting to see what the next step will be.
And what do the tea leaves say? Well, is it strike tomorrow?
Yeah, looks pretty good. Unfortunately,
pretty good means strike.
Unfortunately, yes, it means strike. The strike will happen. And I think that, but you never know in these situations. Negotiations are still going on. Everybody's at the table. They've got until 3 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow to get this thing settled. The words coming out of both sides today aren't not very promising, so be prepared.
Listen, are these reasonable demands by the pilots, like higher pay, or do they want to work from home like everyone else? Is that
it would be an interesting technology to do that. They can do it if they want to, but not with WestJet. Okay. It is a situation where pilots today are a global resource. They have portability with their skill sets, with their licensing. That's all there. So they can move fairly easily given immigration constraints that might be there. So there is a move now to basically look at having these skills being an international base. The union is basically, let's start with a North American base, and that's their going in position at this point.
So let's say the worst case scenario happens. A strike is started by the WestJet pilots. Then what? What are the ramifications? Obviously, you have a WestJet flight. That's trouble for you. But then you think there's all these other ripple effects. What happens?
Well, WestJet has got to make sure that its planes are secure. So they're starting to cancel flights already this morning to make sure the airplanes are not stranded overseas in Mexico or in Europe or anywhere else in Japan.
Right. They got to get them home.
Got to get them home. Got to get the pilots home. And to make sure that by 3 a.m., as much of the fleet is, in fact, either en route or already in Canada. Then the next step after that is for WestJet to get in touch with the passengers who are booked, let's say, for tomorrow or Saturday or Sunday, offer them some alternative transportation. And to basically look at, do you have any other flight that you can get on? WestJet will take care of that. Will make the booking for that passenger, no extra charge to the passenger. And if the itinerary that's being offered to the passenger is not acceptable by the passenger, there is a refund process that starts and gets your money back without conditions. Is that like there's a refund process in place, but it actually never happens and it's difficult to get? Like, is there how does when it's a strike? Is it more straightforward than what we saw, let's say, last summer when there's delays everywhere and it was very difficult for travelers to get restitution? Well, this time around, Alexis is basically the CEO of WestJet, is making the right noises, saying that we are, in fact, going to be looking at processing refunds rapidly. So if your flight is canceled and you legitimately have a WestJet ticket, electronic, either issued by WestJet or a travel agency, that's good enough for WestJet to issue a refund.
Okay, but I guess there's a silver lining. There's light at the end of the tunnel because in this country, boy, don't we have very competent liberal ministers that are on top of this dossier, right? So I imagine the ministers, and the labor minister is Seamus O'Regan, and then we've got Omar Al-Gabra, the transport minister. They're just they do their job so well. They must be all over this, right? What are they doing?
Well, let's just say there's a few of them there already. I know Mr. O'Regan is already there in Ottawa, in Toronto. The head of the labor relations or labor mediation session is in Ottawa. I know Onyx is there, the owners of WestJet. So there's a lot of resources in there. And I know that, the cabinet, Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Al-Gabra are watching. They may not be there, but they're watching very closely.
Would you say this is maybe a critical juncture for WestJet? Because it seems like they've got lofty aspirations, right, as an airline?
WestJet has gone through a metamorphosis, as we say in the business, over the last few years since its inception. It got built as an organization that was friendly. The employees were all considered as owners of the business, and they had options, sharing plans, all kinds of good stuff. When Onyx bought them out 5 years ago, the mentality changed. The ownership structure changed. It is now a business. And so all of the perks that the employees had in terms of equity or options and dividends, gone. And the pension plan has changed. So the mood at WestJet from a culture perspective internally has changed significantly. So WestJet has jumped the shark, as we say, and has transitioned from a friendly airline to, a run-of-the-mill airline. And that's causing some grief.
And John, I really didn't know that. Like, I still thought there was some of that aspect of employee ownership of WestJet still. So that hasn't been the case for a while.
5 years.
Okay. So, let's say this strike happens. Do we have capacity on other airlines to make up for this, right? Because it already seems like everything's booked.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy summer. It's going to be a busy it's going to be a busy summer anyway.
Yeah.
With WestJet operating with this strike, and I think it's going to last no more than about a week, maybe 10 days. That's it.
Sometimes strikes need to happen to get the deal, right?
Yeah. And you got to make your point.
Yeah.
And I think that, with this case, that there is going to be it's going to be a short strike because WestJet can't afford losing all that revenue, and the pilots are not going to get paid.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be some pressure being put to resolve the strike. But capacity-wise, Canada's got 6 carriers now flying domestically.
Yeah.
Air Canada, WestJet, Swoop. You have Flair, you have Lynx, you have Porter.
What you meant? Those 3 of those are quote-unquote ultra low cost, right?
Yeah, Flair and Lynx are ultra-low-cost carriers.
2 of those. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the issue that WestJet has with these pilots that they have. Because what happens is that the pilots that are flying for Flair and Lynx are nowhere near the salary levels that WestJet's currently paying. If you bump up the WestJet salaries, that gap gets even further. So WestJet is centralizing its operation in the West. They've kind of abandoned Eastern Canada, per se. So now they're Fortress Alberta, Fortress Western Canada. They're taking on Flair and Lynx head on. And when you do that, you have to have a cost structure that's competitive. Putting these pilots up 30%, 35%, which is what the union is asking for, is going to be a very, very difficult task.
That's a Quebec MNA salary boost right there. John, we have to leave it there. Thanks for coming in the studio. Great to see your face.
Nice to see you. Take care.
John Gradek is a lecturer at McGill University, and he focuses on the aviation industry.